The moment Henry Keating saw the water leak through his kitchen ceiling, he knew his savings would take another hit. Not that there was much left anyway. 2 years of being a single dad had taught him that unexpected expenses arrived with the consistency of birthdays, but without the cake and candles. "Daddy, is our house crying?" 6-year-old Lily stood in her favorite pink pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit as she stared up at the growing water stain. Henry forced a smile. "Just a little leak, Pumpkin, nothing your dad can't fix." The truth was, he wasn't sure how he'd afford a plumber on his teaching salary, especially after last month's car repairs. "Can I help?" Lily's earnest expression almost broke his heart. She was always trying to be his little helper, too aware of their struggles for someone so young. "You bet." "You can be my official tool holder." He ruffled her hair. "But first breakfast and then school. Miss Jenkins won't be happy if my favorite first grader is late again." After dropping Lily at school, Henry called his best friend Marcus during his free period between classes. Another leak. "Man, that house is falling apart," Marcus said over the phone. Henry sighed. "Tell me about it. I'm starting to think the place is allergic to my bank account." "Look, Vanessa's birthday party is this weekend. You should come bring Lily, get your mind off things." "I don't know, I should probably work on the leak." "There'll be cake. Lily loves cake," Henry laughed. "You fight dirty, Marcus, and there'll be people, adults, who talk about things other than SpongeBob and unicorns." "Fine, we'll be there." Saturday arrived, and Henry found himself standing awkwardly in Marcus and Vanessa's backyard, nursing a beer while Lily played with the other children on the swing set. The leak had gotten worse, and he'd placed buckets around the kitchen, a temporary solution until he could figure something out. "Henry, you made it." Marcus appeared, pulling along a woman Henry had never seen before. "This is Finley Zhao. She works with Vanessa at the marketing firm." Henry extended his hand. "Nice to meet you." Finley smiled, and Henry felt an unexpected jolt when their hands touched. She was stunning, dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders, warm brown eyes that crinkled slightly at the corners when she smiled. "The pleasure's all mine," she said. "Marcus has told me a lot about you." Henry shot Marcus a suspicious look. "All good, I hope." "He mentioned you're a high school English teacher. That must be rewarding." "It has its moments. Teenagers are, well, teenagers," Henry laughed. "But watching them connect with literature makes it worthwhile." For the next hour, Henry found himself deep in conversation with Finley. She was intelligent, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in his stories about teaching and raising Lily. "Daddy, Daddy." Lily came running, her face flushed with excitement. "Can I have another cupcake, please?" Henry smiled. "Just one more, Pumpkin. We don't want a sugar crash later." Finley watched their interaction with a warm expression. "She's adorable. Thanks, she's my whole world." Henry's voice softened. "It's been just the two of us since her mom left when she was 4. Finley's eyes widened slightly. "That must be challenging. Every day, but worth it." Henry hesitated. "What about you? Any kids?" She shook her head. "No, my work keeps me pretty busy. I travel a lot." For the marketing firm, a flicker of something crossed her face. "Yes, projects all over." Before Henry could ask more, Lily tugged on his hand. "Daddy, come see the fort we built. Duty calls," he said apologetically to Finley. She smiled. "Go, but maybe we could continue this conversation another time." Henry felt a flutter of something he hadn't experienced in years. "I'd like that." They exchanged numbers, and as Henry walked away with Lily, he couldn't help but glance back. Finley was watching them, a soft smile on her lips. 3 days later, Henry was up on a ladder examining the leaking ceiling when his phone rang. Finley's name flashed on the screen. "Hello." He tried to sound casual, not like a man who'd been hoping she'd call. "Henry, hi. I was wondering if you might be free for coffee this weekend." He nearly fell off the ladder. "I'd love to, but I have Lily. Bring her along." "There's a cafe near the Children's Museum that has great coffee and the best hot chocolate in town." Henry smiled. "Sold. Lily's a hot chocolate connoisseur." That Saturday, they met at Beans and Books, a cozy cafe with a small children's reading nook. Lily immediately gravitated toward the books while Henry and Finley ordered. "So," Henry said as they sat down with their drinks, "tell me more about your work. You mentioned traveling." Finley nodded, stirring her latte. "I oversee various projects. It can be demanding, but I love what I do." Marketing must be interesting, always changing with trends. She smiled, though something in her expression seemed guarded. It keeps me on my toes, but enough about work. How's your leaking ceiling? Still leaking. I've got a collection of buckets that would make a rain collector jealous. You haven't called someone, Henry shrugged. Plumbers are expensive. I'm trying to fix it myself, but between teaching and Lily. I might know someone, Finley offered. A friend's brother is a contractor. He owes me a favor. Oh, I couldn't accept. Please let me help. Consider it a thank you for introducing me to this place. She gestured around the cafe. I've lived here 2 years and never knew it existed. Before Henry could protest further, Lily returned with a picture book. Can we read this, Daddy? Finley smiled. Would you like me to read it to you, Lily? Lily studied Finley for a moment, then nodded, climbing onto the chair between them. As Finley began reading, doing different voices for each character, Henry watched in amazement. For someone who didn't have children, she seemed completely natural with Lily. The afternoon stretched on, one book turning into 3, then a walk to the nearby park. By the time they said goodbye, Henry realized he'd spent 5 hours with Finley, and it had felt like minutes. I had a wonderful time, Finley said as they stood by her car. Me too, Henry replied. Maybe we could do it again sometime. I'd like that. She hesitated, then leaned in and kissed his cheek. I'll call you about that contractor. As promised, 2 days later, a contractor named Jim arrived at Henry's house. Finley sent me, he explained. Said you had a leak that needed fixing. She didn't have to do this, Henry began, but Jim waved him off, already paid for. And honestly, when Finley Zhao asks for a favor, you don't say no, Henry frowned. What do you mean? Jim looked surprised. You know, because of who she is. A marketing executive, Jim gave him an odd look. Right, marketing. Anyway, let me check out that leak. Over the next few weeks, Henry and Finley saw each other regularly. They took Lily to the zoo, had picnics in the park, and even spent a rainy Sunday making cookies at Henry's house. Each time, Henry found himself falling deeper for this compassionate, intelligent woman who somehow fit so perfectly into their lives. Yet there were moments that puzzled him. Like when the maitre d' at a casual restaurant they visited practically fell over himself to seat them at the best table. Or how Finley occasionally stepped away to take calls, returning with an apologetic smile but no explanation. One evening, after putting Lily to bed following a movie night at his place, Henry joined Finley on the porch swing. She's completely smitten with you, he said softly. I've never seen her take to anyone like this. Finley smiled, though her eyes looked sad. She's an amazing kid. You're doing a wonderful job with her. Some days I feel like I'm barely keeping it together, he sighed. The school year's ending soon, and summer means no paycheck for 2 months. I'm already picking up tutoring gigs, but it's never enough. Finley took his hand. You'll figure it out, you always do. How do you know that? Because I've watched you, Henry. You're resourceful and determined. It's one of the things I admire most about you. The way she looked at him made his heart race. Before he could overthink it, Henry leaned in and kissed her. Finley responded immediately, her hand coming up to cup his face as she deepened the kiss. When they finally pulled apart, Henry rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since the day we met. What took you so long? Finley whispered with a smile. That night marked a shift in their relationship. Though they took things slowly, Henry was cautious about introducing too much change into Lily's life. They began seeing each other almost daily. Finley would come over for dinner after work, help Lily with her reading, and spend quiet evenings with Henry after Lily went to bed. 1 month into their relationship, Henry was grading final exams when his phone rang. It was Marcus. So, you and Finley Zhao, huh? His friend sounded amused. What about us? Nothing, just, has she told you yet? Henry frowned. Told me what? There was an awkward pause. Never mind, not my place. Marcus, what are you talking about? Look, just, Vanessa mentioned some things about Finley's job. You should ask her yourself. The call ended, leaving Henry confused and slightly worried. That evening, when Finley came over, he noticed she seemed distracted. Everything okay? He asked as they cleaned up after dinner. She hesitated. Actually, I need to talk to you about something. Henry's stomach nodded. In his experience, those words rarely preceded good news. What is it? Not here, she said, glancing toward the living room where Lily was watching TV. After she's asleep. The next 2 hours were torture as Henry went through Lily's bedtime routine, his mind racing with possibilities. When he finally returned to the kitchen, Finley was sitting at the table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "You're scaring me," he said, sitting across from her. Finley took a deep breath. "I haven't been completely honest with you about my work." "Okay. I don't just work at a marketing firm. I run it. I'm the CEO of Zhao Innovations." Henry stared at her. "Zhao Innovations, the tech company," she nodded. "We started as a marketing firm 10 years ago, but we've expanded. We now develop software, apps, and digital solutions for major corporations. But that's a Fortune 500 company. I've seen articles about them in business magazines." "Yes," she looked down at her tea. "I should have told you sooner, but when we met. It was so refreshing to have someone see me as just Finley, not as a CEO or a business figure. And then I fell for you, and the longer I waited, the harder it became to bring up." Henry sat back, processing this information. It explained so much: the deferential treatment they sometimes received, her mysterious phone calls, the way she never seemed concerned about money. "Are you angry?" she asked quietly. "No, not angry, just surprised and maybe a little intimidated." He ran a hand through his hair. "I mean, you run a multi-million-dollar company and I'm struggling to fix a leaky roof." "That doesn't matter to me, Henry, but it should. We're from completely different worlds." Finley reached across the table for his hand. "The world I care about is the one where I get to spend time with you and Lily, where I feel more myself than I have in years." Henry wanted to believe her, but doubt crept in. "What would someone like you want with a broke single dad?" Her eyes flashed. "Someone like me." "You mean someone who works too much, who goes home to an empty penthouse, who hasn't felt this happy or connected to anyone in years?" She squeezed his hand. "I'm falling in love with you, Henry, with your kindness, your dedication to your students and your daughter, your terrible dad jokes." Despite his concerns, Henry smiled. "My dad jokes are top tier. They're awful and I adore them." She paused. "What I'm trying to say is that you see me, the real me, not my company or my bank account." Henry stood, walked around the table, and pulled her to her feet. "I'm falling in love with you too, Finley, but this is a lot to process." "I understand. Take all the time you need." He kissed her gently. "Thank you for telling me the truth." After Finley left that night, Henry lay awake for hours. Part of him was thrilled that this amazing woman who could literally have anyone wanted him. But another part worried about what it meant for their future. How could he ever measure up? What could he possibly offer someone who had everything? The next morning, he called Marcus. "You knew," Henry accused without preamble. "I assumed you did too until yesterday," Marcus defended. "It's not exactly a secret. Her face was on the cover of Business Weekly last month." "I don't exactly read Business Weekly between grading essays and making Lily's lunch," Marcus sighed. "Fair enough. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I really care about her, but what? She's successful, wealthy, smart. Those sound like problems most people would love to have. It's not that simple. Our lives are completely different, are they?" "Because from what Vanessa tells me, Finley works too much, has few close friends, and basically lives at her office, until she met you." Henry was silent, considering this. "Look," Marcus continued, "Vanessa says she's never seen Finley this happy. The woman built an empire but was missing someone to share it with. Don't throw away something great because of your pride." After hanging up, Henry spent the day thinking. By evening, he'd made his decision. He texted Finley, "Can we talk? Come over after Lily's asleep." When she arrived, her face was guarded, as if expecting the worst. "I've been thinking about what you told me," Henry began as they sat on his couch, and I realized I was being an idiot." He took her hands. "I was letting my insecurities get in the way of something amazing. I don't care what you do for a living or how much money you have. I care about how you make Lily laugh, how you remember my students' names when I talk about them, how you look at me like I'm someone special." Tears welled in Finley's eyes. "You are someone special. I want us to work. I just need you to be patient with me. I'm not used to dating anyone, let alone a CEO." Finley laughed through her tears. "I'm not used to dating a high school English teacher who quotes Shakespeare when he's nervous." "I do not," Henry protested, then paused. "Do I? Last week when you couldn't find your keys." "Oh, I am Fortune's fool," Henry laughed. "Okay, maybe I do." He grew serious again. I love you, Finley, and I'm not going to let anything not your success or my pride stand in the way of that. I love you too. She kissed him, and Henry felt all his doubts melt away. Over the next several months. They settled into a new normal. Finley was honest about her work commitments but made Henry and Lily a priority. She attended Lily's dance recital, cheering louder than anyone. Henry supported Finley through a challenging product launch, bringing dinner to her office and giving her space when she needed to work late. When summer arrived, Finley surprised them with tickets to Disney World, Lily's dream vacation. I can't accept this, Henry protested when she showed him the itinerary. It's not just for Lily, Finley explained. I haven't taken a real vacation in 5 years. I want to experience this with both of you. Watching Finley and Lily together in the Magic Kingdom, both wearing Mickey ears, faces alight with joy, Henry realized something important. The woman he loved wasn't defined by her corporate success, but by her capacity for happiness, her kindness, and her love for them. One evening, as they watched the fireworks over Cinderella's castle, Lily fast asleep in her stroller, Henry turned to Finley. Move in with us, he said suddenly. She looked startled. What? When we get back home? Move in with us. Your penthouse is beautiful, but our home is. Well, it's a home, even with the occasional leak. Finley smiled. Are you sure? It's a big step. I've never been more sure of anything. He took her hand. I love waking up next to you on the weekends. I want that every day, and Lily adores you. What about your concerns? About our different worlds, Henry shook his head. They're not different worlds anymore. They're one world, ours. Tears shimmered in Finley's eyes, reflected in the fireworks glow. Yes, I'd love to move in with you. 2 weeks after returning from Disney World, Finley moved the essentials from her penthouse to Henry's modest house. She donated most of her designer furniture, but insisted on bringing her professional-grade espresso machine, which Henry didn't protest. Your house is nice, Lily told Finley as they unpacked her books, but our house has more love in it. Finley hugged her. You're right, and now I get to be part of that love every day. That night, after Lily was asleep, Henry found Finley on the porch swing their spot, having second thoughts. He asked, noticing her pensive expression. She shook her head. The opposite. I was just thinking about how I spent years building a company, thinking success would bring fulfillment, but it wasn't until I met you and Lily that I understood what really matters. Henry sat beside her, taking her hand. We're the lucky ones. Lily's never been happier. What about her dad? He smiled. Her dad is pretty happy too. He reached into his pocket. I was going to wait, make some grand gesture, but this moment feels right. Finley's eyes widened as he pulled out a small velvet box. It's not fancy, he said apologetically as he opened it to reveal a simple solitaire diamond. I saved for months, but compared to what you're used to, it's perfect, she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Henry took a deep breath. Finley Zhao, you walked into our lives and made them infinitely better. You see me not just as a dad or a teacher, but as a man with dreams and hopes. You love my daughter as if she were your own. Will you marry me and let us be a family officially? Yes, she said without hesitation. Yes, 1,000 times yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Finley laughed through her tears. You know, for an English teacher, that was a pretty good speech. I may have practiced in the shower a few times, he admitted, pulling her close for a kiss. They married 6 months later in a small ceremony in their backyard, the same place they'd first met. Lily was the flower girl, proudly walking down the makeshift aisle before running into Finley's arms. Does this mean I can call you Mom now? She asked during the reception. Finley knelt down, eye level with the little girl who'd captured her heart alongside her father. I would be honored if you did, but only if you want to. Lily thought for a moment, then nodded solemnly. I want to. I've been practicing. Henry watched them, his heart full. 2 years ago, he'd been a struggling single dad, worried about leaky ceilings and summer bills. Now, he had a partner who supported his dreams and loved his daughter fiercely. On their first anniversary, Finley surprised Henry with news that she was restructuring her company. I'm promoting my COO to co-CEO, she explained over dinner. I'll still be involved in major decisions, but I'm scaling back my hours. I don't want to miss any more of our life together than necessary. Henry squeezed her hand. Are you sure? Your company is your baby." "It was," she corrected with a smile. "But now I have a real family, and I've realized I can have both just with better balance." 6 months later, they gathered in the hospital, staring in wonder at their newborn son. Harrison Marcus Keating had his mother's dark hair and his father's green eyes. "He's perfect," Henry whispered, watching as Lily gently touched her baby brother's tiny fingers. "Our family's perfect," Finley corrected, her eyes never leaving the three people who had transformed her life. As Henry looked around at his wife, daughter, and newborn son, he thought about the journey that had brought them here. A chance meeting at a birthday party, a leaky ceiling, a revelation that could have driven them apart but ultimately brought them closer. "What are you thinking about?" Finley asked, noticing his expression. "How sometimes the most unexpected meetings change everything," he kissed her forehead. "And how grateful I am that you decided a struggling English teacher and his daughter were worth falling in love with." "Best decision I ever made," Finley replied. "Even better than that merger in Singapore everyone made such a fuss about," Henry laughed. "High praise from the CEO. Former full-time CEO," she corrected. "Current full-time wife, mother, and part-time business genius." "Much better titles," Henry agreed, watching as Lily whispered secrets to her baby brother. 3 years later, they stood together in front of Henry's school, watching as Lily skipped toward the entrance for her first day of 4th grade. Harrison, now a rambunctious toddler, squirmed in Finley's arms, eager to follow his big sister. "Not yet, little man," Henry laughed, ruffling his son's hair. "Your turn will come." Finley leaned against her husband's shoulder. "Did you ever imagine this would be your life?" Henry thought about the day they'd met, how he'd been worried about a leaking ceiling and making ends meet, how he'd had no idea that the beautiful woman at the party would change everything. "No," he admitted. "It's better than anything I could have imagined." As they walked back to their car, the modest SUV they'd chosen over the luxury vehicles Finley could easily afford, Henry reflected on the past 4 years. They still lived in his original house, though they'd renovated it completely. Finley worked 3 days a week at her company, spending the other 2 volunteering at Lily's school and being home for Harrison. Henry still taught high school English, still quoted Shakespeare when nervous, and still made terrible dad jokes that made Finley both groan and laugh. Their worlds had merged seamlessly, not because one had conformed to the other, but because they'd created something new together. A life built on love, respect, and the understanding that true wealth had nothing to do with bank accounts. "Ready for dinner with Marcus and Vanessa tonight?" Finley asked as they buckled Harrison into his car seat. "Absolutely, though I still can't believe they're moving to Chicago next month." "We'll visit often," Finley promised. "After all, if not for their birthday party, we might never have met." Henry smiled, thinking of the unlikely series of events that had led him to this moment. A leaky ceiling, a birthday party, a chance introduction. "Lucky for me," he said, taking her hand. "That ceiling started leaking exactly when it did." Finley laughed. "I think that's the first time anyone's been grateful for water damage." As they drove home, Harrison babbling happily in the back seat, Henry glanced at his wife, the brilliant CEO who'd chosen love over isolation, family over ambition, balance over workaholism. Who'd seen value in a struggling single dad when he'd hardly seen it in himself. And he knew with absolute certainty that some leaks were worth every drop.